Live from News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida, this is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
One of the most bizarre seasons in Buccaneers history culminates with a Week 17 explosion at Raymond James Stadium, producing an NFC South title. But should the Buccaneers go full tilt in their season finale with the Falcons, with the playoffs looming? That's what we're going to be talking about on this edition of Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY, alongside our Bucs insiders of WFLA News Channel 8, Your Official Bucs Station, Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus. We are going to be talking all things Bucs, with now the NFC South title officially being in the rearview mirror, and things looking ahead, of course, to Week 18 against the Falcons and whomever it is going to be in the playoffs in that first round, with the Buccaneers sitting right now at 8-8. But we begin this week talking about, of course, what transpired this week when the NFL landscape changed after the injury to Bills safety Damar Hamin. Now, about half an hour ago, another update came in from the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to read it as follows. Damar Hamin is now able to communicate through writing and ask the doctors who won the game Monday night. The doctors answered, "Yes, Damar, you won. You won the game of life." Karen, let's start with you. This has really transformed the NFL since Monday night. The impact has been felt league-wide, including with the Buccaneers. What's your big takeaway with what has transpired really over the last 72 hours, really since Monday Night Football?
So the first thing right out of the gates is just what you said, is the amazing news that he's recovering is just the most paramount thing, and just an incredible quote that you read, just because it was such a scary thing. And that's the only thing I keep saying. It just gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. It was just so awful, and just absolutely amazing that he's been able to make this recovery, and you just hope and pray that he just continues to trend upwards.
We also had the earlier update, you guys, and I'll read it. Per the physicians caring for Damar Hamin at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, Damar has shown remarkable improvement over the past 24 hours. While still critically ill, he has demonstrated that he appears to be neurologically intact. His lungs continue to heal, and he is making steady progress. We are grateful for the love and support we have received. That love and support coming from every NFL franchise, including the Buccaneers. Dan, this is on the top of everyone's minds, and really, as we go now into the Week 18 slate of games, of course, the impact to the scheduling hasn't really been sorted out just yet, but at the top of everyone's minds right now is the health and all the prayers coming in for Bills safety Damar Hamin.
Well, the reaction from Bucs players at practice yesterday, and that was the first opportunity really to hear them talk, and also head coach Todd Bowles, is they were still, you look at the looks in their faces, they were still searching for the words to describe what they saw, how they felt about it, and how it related to their own lives, their own families. And so all of these thoughts and emotions are swirling in their heads, and they had to go to work. And if you're familiar with how the NFL week works, Wednesday is a big day because it's the first day on the field with the new game plan for the next opponent. It's an important day of focus, and I'm not sure how you focus when at the time, lunchtime, let's say yesterday, we still didn't have very good information about his condition. Well, eventually they said he was improving, but they were being so guarded and how they were choosing their words that you thought, okay, this feels like it's good news, but this could go any direction here really quick. And I think that was on the players' minds. And I feel all the players said, you know, we've seen injuries in our career. We've seen guys taken away in an ambulance. Cam Brate was taken off the field on a stretcher this season earlier. That hits you for sure. This hit differently because there's no precedent. This wasn't an exact injury that you could see and, okay, this has happened. I don't know if a lot of people realized until there was CPR taking place that this was a cardiac arrest. It looked innocent enough. The hit, the way he gets up and then falls backwards, was this something concussion related? You could have gone a million directions in speculation until you knew that this is a young man who's fighting for his life, laying on a football field. His buddies are next to him. The entire industry, which is very small, the NFL, everybody knows this guy on teams, either played with him at Pitt or knows him some way, is connected in some way. Jordan Whitehead, by the way, is the connection to the Bucs defensive backs, playing with the Jets now. He was with the Bucs, of course. Jordan Whitehead was his teammate at Pitt. Carlton Davis is consoling Jordan Whitehead, who's extremely upset about this. Imagine this, JB, this worry and concern for this young man. And now you're talking about life, not, oh, is this going to affect his career? I don't think anybody cares about a career right now. I want to see this young man come out of the hospital. I'd love it. If it's possible, I'd love to see him walk and get into a car coming out of the hospital. I'll feel much better when I see that.
Unbelievable that one of the first things that he communicated when he came to and was able to physically write down and physically communicate with doctors and with those caring for him, asking about who won the game, that's where his mind went. And so our thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamin, the Bills organization, the Bengals organization, and really Damar Hamlin's family and loved ones. As far as looking ahead, because of course we have this week 18, the slate of games, the final week of the regular season. What are the chances that, what kind of impact will this have on the week 18 slate of games as of right now? What are we tracking as far as developments with the NFL, with the league? We know that we still have a week 17 game that was left, a majority of which was left unplayed. So is there, is it a green light or a yellow light right now as far as week 18 for the Bucs and the rest of the NFL?
I think it's a green light for the league. I mean, the league stops for no one, and we don't have to get into what was happening Monday night. What were they going to make them play or not? The NFL is out of time. That's the problem. If you date back from the Super Bowl, the NFL does not want to alter its schedule. So you got to finish the regular season this weekend. The question is, do the Bills and Bengals finish their game? And in my own opinion, I don't think they do. And the problem with that is now the AFC playoff seedings are impacted by that. Potentially a championship game, if it involves Kansas City, who would be the home team? If it's Buffalo, Kansas City, I don't have the exact brackets in my head, but there's different scenarios that were depending on the outcome of that game Monday night. So if you cancel the game, which I feel would be very appropriate and timely for the entire league's schedule, how do you seed your playoffs and make it fair for everyone? And I don't think anyone's going to cry foul because we all know why that game was postponed. We're all just grateful. But moving forward, there is going to be a business side that's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Certainly unprecedented, the situation that the league finds itself in, but really everything comes back to Damar, his health, and really just everyone connected to him at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing that everybody keeps coming back to, rightfully so, is that's first and foremost the priority, and that's what everybody's talking about. And to your point, Dan, is that it is just extenuating circumstances, and you go from there.
We are going to continue to monitor developments on Damar Hamin. That is the top priority right now. Of course, everyone's their hearts, their prayers, everything that is being poured into the energy that is behind, hopefully, a full recovery for Damar Hamin. Any updates that we get, we'll be posting, of course, on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and as well, if there's any league announcements pertaining to how now the league moves forward as Damar Hamin's health improves, that will also be on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. One last time, our thoughts and prayers are with Damar Hamin, his family, the Bills, the Bengals, and the NFL organization. We're now going to change gears and now talk Bucs football here on Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY with Bucs insiders Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus. You guys, I was there at the stadium, and it was one of the most thrilling games that I have been part of. I've been to about a dozen to half dozen or so. I don't know exactly how many Bucs games. and this one, let me just tell you, from being there in the stands, absolutely thrilling affair, because you feel like in the second half, especially really the second quarter onward, the Bucs flipped some kind of a switch. Something started to click, and hello, Mike Evans. My
Was
goodness.
that awesome?
Finally.
I mean, yeah. People were questioning this combo, and statistically and in fairness, you had to, but I thought at any moment this could explode.
Right. That was the feeling the entire season. And,
Right.
we kept thinking, okay, well, Tom and Mike are going to get on the same page at some point. And then it's like another game without a touchdown, another game without a touchdown. And you're looking, it was week 4 until this past week, that gap that Mike Evans did not catch a touchdown from Tom Brady. But then it's like on the other side of that too is like, okay, that's one of the main things that makes this offense so good is when those two are on the same page. Mike Evans said, Tom Brady was just throwing dimes. And it was in the right place, and Evans is going to make those catches. And
what
you
was
saw
the other
result. And what was the result?
And what was the other element? Everybody was on the field.
Yes.
Yeah. Byron
Health.
was saying that today.
Everybody was on the
personnel-wise.
field, and when you have everyone on the field, that's what it's designed to do. And even when everyone is on the field, Mike Evans is still going to draw the attention he gets. And that, in the offense, is supposed to mean more for Chris Godwin. And then they need Julio Jones and Russell Gage to step in there. And they need the tight end to become an important part of the offense. That's when everybody's on the field. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? When it works.
Yeah.
Now the Buccaneers, if you ask them, Dan, they're going to say, of course, yes, it's health. It's finally getting some key pieces back and feeling like this is the team that we went into training camp envisioning having as far as health across the board. But I'm going to ask you, Dan, is this also a product of the Carolina Panthers and their inefficiencies and the struggles that they've had this season? Or even if it is partially because of the Panthers and the fact that they are a struggling franchise right now, is this the type of game that kind of like the ignition switch that gets the Bucs going? We're going to get into this later, but is everything coming together at the right time, and maybe the Panthers were just the type of opponent that the Bucs needed to find their swagger again?
I think so, but I don't know if I agree totally. The Panthers were in disarray because when they made the coaching change, it was rock bottom, and they've clawed their way back. They started stringing together some wins, and after they made the McCaffrey trade, which was right before the Bucs played them, it looked like they were trying to play for the top draft pick, and they came in here last weekend knowing this is a must-win for us. If we win this game and then win the next week, we have a chance to win the NFC South. I don't know if the Panthers a month ago were thinking about the playoffs, but they came here thinking about winning the division.
And they did on that first drive, too.
Oh, yeah.
That first drive, I think everybody was like,
14-0.
Well.
The stands were fun because everyone was thinking, my goodness, here we go again.
Wait, were you in a crowd of like Bucs fans, or was it mixed with Panthers fans?
No, it was all Bucs
All
fans.
Bucs, okay.
All Bucs fans.
Need to set the stage for
Yeah,
this.
it was an awesome atmosphere. And when the second, third, fourth quarter started rolling around and Mike Evans is getting red hot and just you're seeing these downfield progressions with Brady looking that way to Evans, place was just lighting up.
Oh, yeah.
And people high-fiving each other. I mean, strangers hugging. It was the best Bucs atmosphere that I have been to. And the Bucs are getting healthy at the right time. We're going to talk more about this in a bit, but I want to bring up the one key piece that perhaps the key piece that still eludes the Bucs, but things pointing in the right direction. Our injury watch this week, again, Bucs Bonus powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY here on WFLA Now. Our injury watch is focused on Ryan Jensen on the IR all season, but designated to return from the IR. How promising, of course, is that? Is there any chance, you guys, that he plays against the Falcons? Is there any chance that he plays in that playoff opener against what is likely going to be an NFC East opponent?
Gosh, I don't think so.
I don't think he plays this week.
No.
I think
Playoffs
he might be
TBD.
available for the playoffs. It's convenient timing, this 21 days, because it was the last 3 weeks of the regular season.
Right.
So the Bucs didn't do themselves any harm putting him into that 21-day window. And when you got to this week, 3 weeks ago, when you thought about it, who knew what was going to be like for Ryan Jensen? The one thing I'll point out about Ryan Jensen, since the day one of camp when he went down, he hasn't been tucked away.
No, he's been
or
very
hidden.
visible. He's been
very
out with
visible.
the team.
He's been out of practice, walking around, and then as the season began and start to go week by week, we see him jogging. You saw him working, and inside that facility, what we see is probably happening tenfold. He was trying to get back. There's a target inside that building, and I'm guarantee you that target is the wild card game to try and get him back on the field. Even if he could probably play this Sunday, JB, I don't think they would risk it. It's not necessary at this point.
It's really worth very little, right, Karen? And also, too, but the reason why he's the subject of our injury watch is I think that there's been this commotion over the course of the season. It really goes to his value is so clear to this organization, to this team. Watching what the offensive line has really had some very promising moments over the course of the season, considering, of course, the loss of personnel on the offensive line. But Ryan Jensen's value has become so clear to this organization. Just how important is he to a potential playoff run? I think the Bucs have proved with this win against Carolina that they can win without Jensen. But getting him back, how big of a boost is that potentially for this team when it matters the most?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, Robert Hainsey, Bob Hainsey, has done phenomenally. I mean, the fact that we are not mentioning his name, as we always say with offensive linemen, is a good thing. So major props to him. And you know that Ryan Jensen has been coaching him up and just helping him along, which has been incredible for them to have that success with Hainsey. But Jensen is somebody who's not only just one of their top offensive linemen, a veteran, a leader, but it's his presence. And even, was it Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich, maybe both of them, talking about just having him on the field was such a boost to morale. Because it's one thing to have him around the sidelines and it's like, okay, he's there, he's a part of the team, but he's in the warm-up lines, he's doing the drills, and actually, in the huddle on the practice field. And that's a huge boost to have somebody on your team who just brings energy. Is like just changes the vibe of it.
We talked about it on a previous episode, the guys in the locker room that just provide that edge and that on offense, we were asked, I think the three of us, we were talking about it. We were talking about who's the guy. We know that there's plenty of edginess on that defense, but when it comes to the offense, who's the guy with the edge?
We did talk about that.
Because Rob Gronkowski is obviously a player in past Bucs seasons who provided a little bit of that, just that swagger. Ryan Jensen is certainly that player that provides that boost. So
his tenacity, that's what Tristan Wirfs said.
I like that word.
That's from Tristan's Wirfs.
That's what they call it.
He said, we missed his tenacity. I was like, I like that.
Tristan Wirfs, the wordsmith.
In some language, that means nastiness. Tenacity. They like his tenacity.
Tenacity.
His tenacity.
Fierceness.
Right.
Ryan Tenactiness Jensen.
He said what did Tristan say? He said, I was glad to see, it's nice to see his red hair flowing out there. I was like, oh, I can relate.
I'll tell you this, at the end of plays, when Ryan Jensen is on the field, you go into the pile, especially if it's a gain of 3 or whatever, and there's, linemen and linebackers and the ball carrier in there. He's the guy that prevents the shenanigans. And if there's someone that needs to be shoved or pulled off the pile, he's going to do it. And that's the tenacity that the Bucs have missed. They're all tough guys, and they're all going to stand up for their teammates. But Ryan Jensen is known around this league as a guy that when you see the red hair flowing, kind of steer clear a little bit.
Somebody you don't mess with.
Right, exactly.
And he's earned that too. Like he's become such a solid, amazing player.
He's become that without the personal fouls.
You earn it.
And that's why Brady loves him. And I go all the way back to the high school, the Berkeley prep days when we were shooting their workouts from the helicopter, teaching him about the towel trick. I need a dry.
Oh, yeah.
I need the snap to be dry. I'll just leave it at that. And Ryan Jensen learned how to use the powder and the towel, and these two have been connected ever since. And Brady would love to have him back. And now, let's say he comes back for the wild card game. So he's going to have to test himself to be effective.
Yeah.
Now you've got Robert Hainsey available to play any position you need.
Yes.
Right. And it's not like I don't think Robert Hainsey is a liability at center. If Jensen needs to wait, then I think they're fine.
Correct.
The line in general, by the way, I think has finally gelled.
Mm-hmm.
I hated to see Luke Gedeke not have success, but they made a necessary change, and I think it has grown and grown and grown since then. The only mishap was the Tristan Wirfs injury.
Yeah.
But knock on wood, I think that's not a liability at all in this team, the line.
No, it's definitely come together. But, I mean, we did see growing pains.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As we saw with the receivers who couldn't get on the field.
The health, right?
And we're wondering where
have everybody
these guys
there.
are. Has Brady lost it? It's like this offense is in disarray.
Yeah. We have a different lineup every week, like your personnel
exactly.
is.
So
that can't be overstated. How important consistency is, and the game reps and the communication.
That's something
reps.
Brady talks about quite a bit. Yeah,
he does. And as we know, injuries hit every NFL team during the season. And when you get to late December, early January, you're either going this way or that way.
Yep.
The Bucs got a lot of their injuries early for some reason. They were a injury-riddled team, a snake-bitten roster, and one by one, other teams have had issues. The mighty Eagles have had late season injuries of impact their playoff situation to the point where they're playing a meaningful game in Week 18. I think they're trying to preserve the bye.
Yeah. P.S. Injury report did come out.
All right, let's just.
This is
while
breaking
we're on
news.
Injury watch.
Wow.
Yes,
So
Karen
full disclosure,
Loftus.
it came up when you brought up the picture of Jensen, but I let us continue with our Jensen thing. But I found a break in the action there that I could
Give me a
jump in
cough
with this.
break. Thank you.
Just for you, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no changes in as far as participation status from yesterday to today. Carlton Davis still did not participate, shoulder. Julio Jones did not participate, knee/illness. Logan Ryan, Donovan Smith, Vita Vea, those three did not practice.
And
there were several other that were limited.
We have to take this with a grain of salt, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a moment because we just don't know how much certain Bucs players are going to be pressed in Atlanta as far as, because look, the game is largely inconsequential. So we're going to talk more about that in just a second. Were any other final injury notes there, Karen?
That was
you wanted
pretty
to make
much
note
the
of?
long
Okay.
and short. Yeah.
I want to just mention that if Ryan Jensen is a go in that wild card game at Raymond James Stadium in the first week, the opening week of the playoffs, when they call his name out on the loudspeaker at Raymond James Stadium, the crowd is going to have they're going to lose their minds because he has become one of those players. When I talk to Bucs fans, they know how valuable he is to the team. They know how popular that he is. And it's just going to be the roar of the crowd is going to be special. Speaking of which, it's really fun when I go to Bucs games and I'm like, oh, is that Karen? That's Karen Loftus on the Jumbotron providing her game report.
Yes.
I love seeing it. You know who I also saw on the Jumbotron?
Our weather. Who was doing the weather?
Did we had weather? I believe that we had weather. And we also had
this guy's back.
Yeah. We have the caller on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Frequently finds
I
his
saw our
way
caller on the Jumbotron.
on the Jumbotron. So let's go to the call lines, open them up because, we know who it is.
JB, this is Buckeye Burt, and Happy New Year.
Thanks.
Happy New Year.
Last week
Bert,
against the
thank you.
Panthers,
Happy New Year.
we proved to the world that we have the answer to beat the Panthers. Now we are the division champ, and back-to-back. We've never done that in the history of the Buccaneers franchise. Now get ready, because this Sunday, when we play against the Falcons, that game really is not significant for us, but we're just going to go there and get ready for a playoff, because we're going to use the Atlanta Falcons and make them look like a division game and beat them anyway, and then get ready for the playoff, because we are going to have a home game at Raymond James Stadium. In other words, the season for the playoff is going to start on Del Mabry Corner, and our destination is the Super Bowl in Arizona.
Man, I love
To be clear, the
Buckified.
destination.
Yeah.
Let's underscore the
The
destination.
destination.
I love it.
And he brought the championship. He was
I saw the
displaying the
belts.
belt.
Championship.
I
Man,
thought the pirate ship hat is getting fancier.
Is it?
It looked like it to me.
we're going to talk
It's
about whether or
amazing.
not the Bucs are peaking at the right time here in just a second as we look at our Week 18 preview. But I think Buckified is also peaking at the right. He's
ready for it.
Yeah, he's a playoff
for
guy. He's
the
always
playoffs.
He's always trending upward in late December.
As
usually.
we look here at your Week 18 preview on your screen, the 8-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 6-10 Atlanta Falcons, 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Let's get to your key storylines. Rest versus rumble. Should the Bucs press for their 9th win? A big shout out to Bob Hansen, our very talented sports photojournalist who I was just talking to about half an hour ago, and he said that it has to be mentioned that Tom Brady has never had a losing record in the regular season. So how much pride comes into play? Because look, you don't want a key player going down with an injury in Week 18. The game is inconsequential for the Buccaneers, but do you want a winning record? Do you press for the 9-8 record, or is it more important to rest your players with the playoffs looming? Who wants to go first?
Well, there's always a sentiment that you don't want to get injured, so that's the safest way is to not put people on the field. But I'm a big believer in momentum, and I'm a big believer in athletes being kind of creatures of habit and routine. And I also know the competitive nature of Tom Brady, who will fight to get on the field because it matters to him. My concern comes in, let's just go put everybody out there. Let's say we're going to treat it normal. I'm not even worried about injuries. What if things don't go well? What if they fall behind and this turns into one of those games where they're just going to have to grind it out? At that point, the second half where you would be pulling guys to get some guys out of the game, now you're really looking ahead to the following week. Are you throwing in the towel? And what is the mindset of the Atlanta Falcons? Where are they? They're looking at draft selection. They have their own issues with not wanting guys to get hurt, contracts coming up and stuff like that. So everything's relative these last games. I think a lot of guys do play in this game Sunday, at least most of the first half.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about just like considering all the scenarios, because it's like, okay, in an ideal world, you sort of treat it like a preseason and you're going to, the Falcons are 6-10. Ideally, you're up by, 3 touchdowns in the third quarter and, Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask, down the depth chart we go, ideally. But you bring up a good point about and I'm sure the coaches are preparing for all of the scenarios and how they're going to use their personnel. But let me go back to your title, by the way. Shout out for this, Rest versus Rumble. I like your title.
I was looking for a little alliteration there.
That was clever. I like that. But I think these guys, and Tom Brady said it, Mike Evans was saying it, these guys are competitors. They want to play. They want the reps. They play to win, and it's like even if they're in the playoffs, you don't think these guys want to say that they finished with a winning record. I think Mike Evans was talking about it today, about finishing with a winning record in the regular season. He's like, I haven't had many of those.
I do think the 9th win really
it matters.
Is the motivating factor. That 9th win to finish 9-8, just so they don't have to answer the questions all week. Do you really deserve to be here as the 4th seed or 8-9, losing record? The last team I remember is the Seahawks. Came in with a losing record.
Talked about it on our last.
So it shouldn't matter once you get in. The seedings are what they are, but the Bucs would have to answer those questions, and the national media would be all over that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So Brady is definitely going to want to rumble, but at the same time, can you imagine the headlines? I don't want to will it into existence.
Don't even say it. Don't even put that in the universe. We're talking about they're going to play, and that's
this guy.
Let's go to the second bullet point. I'm going to stop you from even putting it out there. Don't
somebody
get
buckified back on the phone.
Job to ask questions. So it's just, look, we're all thinking it. We're not going to say it, but we're all thinking it, and we just don't want there to be that scenario. So look, Todd Bowles, the entire coaching staff, really the front office, I'm sure it's going to be a conversation about different scenarios, as you put out, and what things are going to look like, because I think you hinted at it, Dan. Yeah, I know you mentioned it. Do the Falcons really want to win this game? I mean, yeah, that you want to end the season on a high note, but, look, draft picks are a real deal, and
well, the other thing that some people were talking about today in the locker room is like player incentives. Like there could be players on the Falcons
that's true too.
Where they're like 2
receptions,
2 catches away from a milestone. So
and
there's always things to play for.
If you look at the Falcons' record and where they are, they were the first team eliminated in this wacky division this year, but their games have been competitive games. So when you say, you know what, just build a big lead, then get Brady out of there. It's not as simple as that.
Right.
I think the best case scenario is that, but I just don't see this team being up 21-3 in the second quarter and then them saying, all right, let's get Gabbert in and let's just work it all, you know, like you said, a preseason game basically. Yeah. The Falcons aren't going to allow that. They're going to play. I think the Falcons come out and play hard.
I also just want to spotlight real quick. We're going to move on to our next key storyline, but one thing I'm really looking forward to on Sunday, I think that this game we could possibly see a showdown of two of the best young running backs in football, or the most promising young running backs in football. I really like Tyler Algier's makeup for the Falcons. I think that he's really shown that he's very, very talented. And then Rachaad White, my God, I think that he might get keep playoff Lenny, playoff fresh. I like the opportunity that Rachaad White might have going into the final regular season game for the Buccaneers. Let's go to our next key storyline. Are the Bucs peaking ahead of the playoffs? Is this the time where it's all coming together? You were talking about some cornbread recipe. What was it?
Oh my gosh, are we going
to? Hey, listen, when it comes
jalapeno butter.
Ooh,
jalapeno honey butter with cornbread muffins and chili that I made yesterday. I appreciate you giving me the platform to share about my cooking victory.
I wanted to give you that platform because it serves into my idea here.
Oh, tell me this tie-in.
No, the tie-in is
what is this tie-in?
Every ingredient is necessary for it to be perfect. And so
and
are
time.
the Bucs.
It was in the crock for 9 hours.
So 9 hours?
It was in the slow cooker for 9 hours.
It's about having the right time, the right preparation, and all of it coming together for one perfect conclusion. Right?
How about
that for a tie-in? I'm on my game here today, apparently. I'm getting the Karen Loftus look of approval, which means so much to me. So to the question, like a Karen Loftus recipe, is it all peaking at the right time for the Bucs? Why don't we start with you, Karen, considering that you are the chef behind this theme, this road that we're going down
here. Keep it going. Yes, I do. And I think on both sides of the ball. We talked about the Tom Brady, Mike Evans connection, which, you know, we saw peaking for sure. I mean, that was the best game they've had all season, without a doubt. And then defensively, too, we're seeing the defense cause some turnovers and get their confidence in that way. Because that's one of the biggest ways that a defense can generate confidence is getting turnovers. So, yes, both sides of the ball. And even, you know, special teams, we can't not talk about Jake Camarda and his extra effort.
The punt.
That's all three phases, you know? Everybody is falling in and carrying their weight.
Dan, you're with us?
Dying over
here. Do you need me to talk longer? Do I need me to talk longer?
Something's going around.
Jalapeno butter.
Oh, he started talking about jalapeno butter.
He was getting choked up about how good my chili recipe was.
I don't think this is peaked. I think they're improving.
Trending? Okay, so hold on. Peaking, but peaking for the season. So if we're ascending,
if I'll say one thing about the Bucs, there's one thing about the Bucs I've learned this year is they're not out of it. So which is important this time of year, no matter what kind of game they're in. And I'll just jump ahead to the wild card game. If they're down in the fourth quarter, they're going to compete, and they'll have a chance to come back and win it. They've shown us that.
Yeah,
I'll give them that for sure.
There's no doubt that, and we can all agree here, we can all nod our heads, right, that this game against is it the best the Bucs have looked all year? Is it like when we ahead of the season actually starting, when we thought about what the Bucs might look like at their best, is this what we envisioned as far as Week 17?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we saw glimpses of it in the first 2 weeks in regards of, you know, maybe in the Cowboys game a little bit. Maybe I'm just thinking because they won those 2 games, and those were the only 2 other games that they scored double digits in a win.
Wow.
I think that was right. Or won by double digits. That might have been it. But yeah, I think it's the best that they've played all season.
Yeah, and so I think we're in universal agreement. The Bucs are trending in the right direction at the time of the season in which you want to be trending in the right direction. That brings us to our final key storyline on this edition of Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. And this is a big question. There has been gossip, whispers, speculation, if you will, as to whether or not this Week 18 matchup at Atlanta is going to be Tom Brady's final regular season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay has been just rejuvenated by Tom Brady's presence. It goes beyond just a Super Bowl victory, what Tom Brady has done for the sports landscape in the Tampa Bay area as far as putting Tampa Bay on an even bigger map. It's been extremely special. And there are those out there wondering if this is it coming to an end. Tom Brady has been a little bit inconsistent with his messaging as to whether or not he wants to continue to play football. But most recently, it seems as if he does want to continue playing the game that he loves, a game that I believe I saw some stat recently that he has officially had more days on this planet as a NFL player than before, which is absolutely
we've crossed over,
blowing,
more,
absolutely crazy. But as we all tune in on Sunday, 1:00 on Fox for Bucs Falcons, it's going to be on the minds of Bucs fans as to whether or not is this the final regular season. It's not going to be the final game because we know the Bucs have obviously clinched for the playoffs. But is this it for? Are we looking at Brady's final games in a Buccaneers uniform? Dan, you want to go first?
Well, I think there's a lot more to his decision than do I want to keep playing football? And obviously he wants to be in a situation next year. Let's presume he's going to come back and play football next year. He wants to be somewhere that's competitive, pardon me, and has a chance to win a championship. The issue goes beyond Tom Brady with this team. As far as the Bucs are concerned, Jason Light, the GM, has got one heck of an offseason coming up where they've got to deal with this salary cap thing head on. They've got contracts coming up, some very uncomfortable conversations coming up with guys like Levante David. They're going to have to move some money around. And I think that Tom Brady would like to have some assurance that things are going to either be status quo with his guys or even bigger things are going to be in play for him because Brady's not going somewhere to pad his stats and finish it out. The guy wants to ride off into the sunset like John Elway did.
Yeah. I think it's exactly what you said as far as more, there's so many facets to this.
Right.
And I think a lot of it may have to do with the fact that what if the Bucs win the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah.
If they win it all,
he might retire.
Does he tie? Yeah, does he tie a bow on his career for real this time and call it a career? So I think it's a hard thing to even project because I think in my head, I'm thinking that his decisions, whether he stays in the league and keeps playing or stays with the Bucs, whatever it may be, will be dependent on how this season finishes up. And if he feels like there's unfinished business or he wants another championship or he feels like this team is going to come back and they have what it takes, because that's what it ultimately was for him to come out of his brief retirement. So TBD, JB, all the initials.
All the zingers on this episode.
I always thought that his personal life was tugging at him, and that's not even trying to make light of his personal life and what we all know eventually took place in his personal life. But I have to imagine there were weeks and months of where he really gave it some thought to come back and say, I do want to play football. That is life-changing.
Major
and it
decision.
wound up being life-changing, as we now know. So he's going to come off this season, no matter what happens, in the same boat, but not the same boat. And he'll have personal life questions tugging at him again from a different angle about different things. We know he has business ventures. We know he has the Fox Sports gig lined up whenever he's ready to do it. But as he has stated, as we've seen, he's in terrific shape. He's playing well. He
can still throw the ball.
Playing at a high level. We saw his arm this past weekend. Yeah. Not only distance but accuracy. So why wouldn't the team want him? I still stand by the fact that he will have a limited number of choices in his own opinion because he's not going somewhere unless he thinks he can win a Super Bowl.
Right.
And the rumors of the places that have him going, there's some of those that I don't see ready for a Super Bowl.
Let's talk about that really quickly. So the two teams that are most mentioned alongside these rumors, all the speculation, are the Vegas Raiders with Josh McDaniels. Of course, we know the Brady and McDaniels connection. And then, of course, the San Francisco 49ers and the idea of Brady going home. I find the latter of those two scenarios to be to be fascinating in this regard, that all of a sudden Brock Purdy looks like potentially the real deal. And wouldn't it be interesting that maybe the roadblock from Brady going home is a guy that was drafted very last in the draft when you're talking about Tom Brady, who infamously went in the 6th round? That to me is just so intriguing that Brock Purdy emerged out of nowhere and could alter the future of both respective organizations. But those are the teams. But look, the Buccaneers, I believe that TampaBay.com. I believe that one of the great sports writers over there had an article recently about how the Buccaneers are still very much in play for Tom Brady as a potential outcome next year. So there's a lot of moving parts here, but it can't be ignored. And I make sure I have this correct. Tom Brady is a free agent. I mean, this is the end of his contract with the Buccaneers when this season concludes.
But the Bucs have, over what other teams have, is the known.
Right.
He knows what he has here. But as I said, I don't think Jason Light needs to tear this thing down after this season, but there's going to be some departures that are awkward. And I don't know where that's going to leave this team in terms of the upper echelon of the NFL. Are they going to compete for the NFC South with Tom Brady next year? Yes, which gets them into the tournament. Mike Evans and all those big, great names and the people around them. Yeah. But the Bucs as a team, where are they going to be? So there's a lot at stake in Tom Brady's decision.
You know, Karen, you mentioned a short time ago, you were talking about, wow, what if Tom Brady and the Bucs actually win the Super Bowl a few weeks ago? That would have been absolute crazy talk.
Yeah, I was just saying that to somebody. Yeah,
with three heads. But I just did a current look at the Vegas odds for who's going to win the Super Bowl this year, and the Bucs are lurking at 7th most likely.
They're in
the odds
discussion.
at 25. And now, because look, let's be real. If you're one of the opposing teams in the playoffs, do you really want to be looking across the sideline and seeing Tom Brady as your opponent, your opposing quarterback?
No, not even a little bit.
Well, after watching them go through that gauntlet in 2020.
Right.
Say what you want about the stadiums not being full and all that. To win 3 games on the road against the opponents they played, that impressed me, because when the playoffs started in 2020, I didn't think they were going to go to the Super Bowl. When it
was an uphill battle.
They beat Washington, and I thought, well, this is fun. And I honestly thought it was going to come to an end in New Orleans before we even went, and they got through that. And I thought, well, now Lambeau in January.
Yep. All of the biggest hurdles you think about, like road places to play in the playoffs.
Just the elements alone in Lambeau. Were
and the elements in the Superdome.
Yes. Right.
It's, that was a challenge.
That playoff game in the Superdome had a pretty good number of fans in it. It was pretty good, pretty loud. Nowhere near what we know as the Superdome, but it was still a Saints atmosphere, and you got Drew Brees and them fully loaded and ready to beat the Bucs. They're the team that they've owned, and they went in there and won the game, and they won it with big defensive plays.
And even talking about like records and stuff, when you're saying, a team looking at the Bucs and, oh, well, what have they done this season to get into the playoffs, their division, all the arguments that people could make about the Bucs being in the playoffs. But they're there, and they have Tom Brady, and they have phenomenal people on both sides of the ball. So as much as people say they don't look at records during the regular season, I guarantee you that they are not looking at anybody's record in the postseason.
Right.
Final question, because we've run out of time here on Bucs Bonus. I want to ask both of you just really quickly, flash answer. If you're the Buccaneers, if you're Todd Bowles, if you're the organization, who do you want to see in the wild card round? What's the preferred opponent from the NFC East? Who do you want to be playing? Is it the Eagles? Is it Cowboys? I mean, what is the better matchup for the Bucs? We know the Bucs beat the Cowboys,
right.
So who would you rather be playing?
Confident they're going to play the Cowboys,
right?
Just because there's history now, and there's film, there's matchups that the Bucs know they have what they have. I give the Bucs a very good chance of beating the Cowboys in the wild card. Yeah, and the Cowboys are coming in here. What are they? 11 wins or 12 wins now? They've
come on late. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a struggling Cowboys team by any stretch, and that's what I mean by it's kind of important for the Bucs to win this game because the storyline will be, well, should the Bucs really be the home team in this game? The Cowboys have won 12 or 13 games. They're the better team.
The enemy is better than the enemy you don't know, and the Bucs have familiarity with the Cowboys.
Yes.
They have not played the Eagles, the resurgent, very new, and sort of somewhat unexpectedly dominant Eagles in the 2022-2023 NFL season. We'll leave it with that. A happy new year to you both. I'm very excited to what the next few weeks hold for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and for us here on Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK Gary. I'd really like to thank our Bucs insiders, Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus. Really appreciate all of your expertise, you guys. The very latest on all your Bucs content from WFLA News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. You can find it on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and on air with Dan and Karen on WFLA News Channel 8. You can watch or listen to Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now on our respective site, app, as well as on YouTube TV. And you can listen as well. Hello to our listeners listening to us right now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For Dan and Karen, I'm JB. Go Bucs. We'll see you next time here on Bucs Bonus.